to sports. With the uncertainty of the upcoming football season, athletes, coaches, fans, and even the pesky press remain on edge. As most of us try to stay positive, we've looked for a way to channel our love for the game. Sharing stories of great athletes, coaches, and games certainly helps. In tonight's segment, we crank up the projector for one final gridiron tale.
I said, man, that's got to be told. That's a beautiful story.
Over the last 5 weeks, we've told a few of those gridiron tales.
This area in the country is a special place with the kind of players, men that we've produced.
From shining under the Friday night lights to making a daily impact on Northeast Louisiana.
I hope I'm a better doctor, because that's a little more important, but, I don't know. I'd have to let somebody else decide that.
In fact, in my yearbook, my senior year, that's what I put down, that I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon and do sports medicine.
We talked X's and O's with area coaching legends.
We'll double down here and we're going to isolate that.
We cruised down memory lane with a coach who never lost to West Monroe.
Go read the record books and see who won.
A national championship coach got a little teary-eyed from a game 33 years ago.
When we landed at the airport and you came out that door and all those people that were there, so.
An old school coach reminded us how times have changed.
The older you get, the bigger the paddle.
I don't think the paddle was that big, but the man swinging the paddle.
A punishing running back told us he wanted no part of a comeback.
Whew. I can give him a pregame meal and a postgame meal.
We went fishing with one of the best father-son quarterback combos in the state's history. We learned that their competitive fires still burn.
See, Aaron, part of the reason why he's better at it is like a computer game. And I didn't grow up with all these handheld computer games.
He still got an iPhone 3.
We are not sure what four-time Pro Bowler Pat Williams had more of.
Started right here, Wild High School. That's where it started at.
Framed jerseys or stories.
I told you, KNOE TV8, I told you on the first day.
He shined the KNOE spotlight back on a 1972 Neville squad that did the unthinkable. 3 playoff wins in 8 days.
It's always good when we can get together and we talk about things, we tell each other lies.
All time's gone by. Feel like some of these guys still think they can play.
We celebrated along with Bill Johnson as he completed the 3 rings of Louisiana, a state, national, and world championship representing a Louisiana team. Our jaws dropped as Ruston's Dub Jones reflected on scoring 6 touchdowns in 1 NFL game. A Super Bowl winning coach raved about a city and a university that adopted him.
This was always home for us.
6-time Pro Bowler Kyle Williams beamed with pride as he described his Ruston homecoming.
It was always on my mind that the place I represented, the people I represented, and I wanted to do it the right way.
Being 89, this is 11 years since.
We were there when West Monroe strength and conditioning guru Casey Sanders said goodbye to the Rebels weight room. We laughed.
Don was only a 5'7". He said he was 5'8", but he lied.
Then cried with the widow of Don Shows.
He spoke football before he married me, and those were the last words he spoke to me before he took his last breath.
We were inspired by a former hard-hitting linebacker from Ouachita.
I can make this the best thing I could ever do for my life, or I can make it the worst and give up. And I decided to make that conscious decision to kind of get busy living.
We paid tribute to a college football legend.
If I were not in football, if I was in science, I'd try to be down at Cape Kennedy trying to put people on the moon.
We profiled an NFL pioneer who refused to be labeled.
And if I go to the NFL and play and don't come back and say you didn't make it because you was black.
It was an amazing 5-week ride. And somehow we survived without a scratch.
If you don't lose your head, if you keep your head on, I think there's no doubt that I won.
Ultimately, we learned that you should never challenge the character, talent, and most importantly, the passion of Northeast Louisiana football.
Nobody will ever know what an effort it took out of a bunch of little white knots here on the north side of Monroe. I love them with all my heart. I've spent my life here, and I've never been any more proud than tonight. Thank
you. Now we wait and see if there'll be a gridiron tale or 2 to tell this season. That's your Good Sports. Welcome to Sports. Over the next 5 weeks, we're putting a fresh take on some classic moments from Northeast Louisiana's rich football past. From the legendary players and coaches to some of the unforgettable games. We shine the spotlight on a former Grambling pitcher who never lost a game in college. However, his true greatness came through on the football field. A gridiron tale with Mackie Freeze.
He's just loved by all of us.
COVID-19 and Louisiana's summer heat will not keep former Richwood stars away from their coach.
The greatest thing ever happened to me was having Coach Freeze in my life.
Everybody loved Coach Freeze. One of the most positive people you ever seen in your life.
Mackie Freeze has a gridiron tale. His voice and laughter need to be heard.
It feels good to get something like that named after you when you're still living. See, most of that stuff is done when you're dead.
93 years young and full of life.
I eat, sleep, and digest football.
In 1954, the football fanatic was given $300 to build Richwood's football program.
Those first couple of years, did you have to take some hand-me-downs from the likes?
Oh, did I? If it had not been for Coach Perkin over at West Monroe, I wouldn't have had any shoes. Had it been for Neville, I wouldn't have had the pants to practice in. And had it been for the men in the Northeast, I wouldn't have had any shoulder pads. They just knew I needed something. They called me. I didn't have to go to them.
From that humble start, a powerhouse was born.
We had those good old country boys that wanted to play football.
In the early 60s, the Rams won 4 state titles that featured 66 consecutive wins.
Amazing. You don't want to believe it when you look back and think about it, but you know you had somebody up there looking down on it.
Freeze kept close tabs on his boys with tough love.
I know you heard about it. They exaggerate the past.
Mackie's attention getter, Papa.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I got some boys here with me right now. They will exaggerate right now. Papa, come here, Papa. And when he say, come here, Papa, you know you finna get it.
Call everybody Papa. And then because you know you're in trouble. Come here, Papa.
The older you get, the bigger the paddle. I don't think the paddle was that big, but the man swinging the paddle. Boy, he could swing it.
Freeze's teams handed out whoopings. In 13 seasons, the Rams went 116-23, with 11 players eventually signing pro contracts. However, Freeze's resume is missing one thing.
Why he's not in the Louisiana Hall of Fame, I can't understand it.
How can you not? I don't know. We mentioned how you not put him in the Hall of Fame.
You can't have everything. And if I had to do it again, I'd do it the same way, whether they recognize me as what I'm supposed to have done or not.
The coach who speaks softly and carries a big stick is a Hall of Famer in our books.
The secret is just trying to make from day to day and be good to the man upstairs.
In the shadows of this water tower sits a monument of a legend who put a Northeast Louisiana community on the football map.
The first words he ever spoke to me was about coaching, and the last words he spoke to me was about coaching.
This football love story kicks off with an undersized track star.
Don was only a 5'7". He said he was 5'8", but he lied.
Shiles was chasing after a younger woman.
I told him I was totally not interested. He was way too old for me. And there were some things that I thought, what in the world am I doing? You know, this is going to be a long life.
In 1989, a Northwestern State assistant coach was on the move, if his wife agreed.
First of all, I said, where is West Monroe?
She was not alone. The Rebels program had no identity. 2 playoff wins in 40 years.
He said, I want to build my team. And I said, all right, if you're game, I am.
The Shiles were off and running. However, they had a slight problem.
2,000 students and 36 football players. Now that tells you what kind of program they had. He said, we're going recruiting. I got to be careful with that. So, but we only stayed in West Monroe, the city. We drove around the school, and every time he would see a young man and say, hey boy, where do you go to school? West Monroe, sir. He said, you ever played football? No, sir. He said, you're going to starting Monday. I will see you on Monday. And they came.
Building a football powerhouse did not happen overnight. In fact, the Rebels went 25-16 overall in Schaus's first 4 years. But by 1993, the Rebels had a cause.
You boys don't even know how to win yet. I'm going to teach you how to win. And once you learn how to win, you're going to win and win and win and win. I cannot even tell you how cool that was. It was just simply amazing. It was the beginning of a long, long run.
An incredible 24-year run. 265 wins, 18 district championships, 8 state titles, and 2 national championships.
They asked me, what's the greatest thing that you experienced as a coach? And it's seeing the faces of the kids when they win a state championship.
You're in Rebel Stadium. Are you ready for football?
West Monroe Stadium and Fieldhouse quickly became the Schaus's second home.
You know, Don doesn't smoke or drink, I don't smoke or drink, and we just loved the highs that we got from those kids.
After this game, they may not want me anymore at West Monroe. Who knows?
The king of poor-mouthing. Schaus also knew how to sell a ticket or two.
They do a much better job of recruiting than what we do.
Wanted to make them so angry over there that they would write notes to our boys, and Don would go around when everybody was gone and he would paste them on the lockers of those kids. See what Washington's gonna do to you, see what Neville's gonna do to you. You better get busy.
Don may have been a Hall of Fame coach, but he still had to answer to his #1 critic.
Did we have some words, especially when he didn't throw the pass that I thought he should throw or make the play that I had? I typed his playbook, so I knew all of them.
So you would second guess him on some things?
Oh, really? Like the rest of the fans, I was a fan.
Yeah, I was at home an awful lot.
As Don's health started to fail, he had a special request for his wife of 40 years.
#1, please don't let this defibrillator kick me. And he said, #2, don't let me die in pain. And #3, and the most important, please don't ever leave my side.
In March of 2014, Schaus had 1 pregame speech left in him.
Come here. So I walked over and I had to get very close to him because he only could speak in a whisper. And he said, Don, I do not want you on the sidelines. I want you in the game.
In his final hours, the 4th winningest all-time coach in Louisiana history had his star player by his side.
I was with him and held his hand until he took his last breath. He never uttered another sound. Now that's how competitive that man was.
I don't know why you're here tonight, but I'm here for one reason and one reason only. It has to go to New Orleans.
Years ago, Schaus's vision of building community pride through a football program became a reality. His legacy can still be seen and heard on Friday nights in the fall.
Exactly how he started. You got to learn how to win. And he said, once you do, you will win and win and win. God let him do exactly what he wanted to do, and he was pretty good at it.
Tonight, a gridiron tale for the ages, a championship season that will never be duplicated.
You never let anybody beat you that you're better than. He always said that.
The soft drinks and stories flowing freely. A few Neville players reliving their high school glory years.
It's always good when we can get together and we talk about things, we tell each other lies.
All time's gone by. Feel like some of these guys still think they can play.
48 years ago, they could, and they have the black and white footage to prove it.
5 yards in a cloud of dust kind of offense that we had.
You towed the freaking line, wasn't no high stepping in the end zone, give the official ball back, and if we didn't do something right, he was gonna come jump in your freaking face.
This gridiron tale kicks off with the late, great Charlie Brown, who never missed the opportunity to praise this historic team.
Did some things that no other high school anywhere has ever done and will ever get the opportunity to do.
With just 2 players weighing over 200 pounds, the Tigers were not about to back down to the state heavyweights.
Inside, they had a heart bigger than this building.
Their character and endurance were tested during a brutal playoff stretch.
The 8 days were kind of a blur then, they're kind of a blur now.
It started in New Orleans with a semifinal showdown with Brother Martin in less than ideal conditions.
And the footing was terrible, wasn't no grass in the middle of the field.
So it should come as no surprise. The game ended in a scoreless tie.
First downs, penetrations, everything was tied.
It was determined the semifinal rematch would be played 4 days later.
We spent a lot of time in Whirlpool, I can tell you that.
The pregame soaks worked. The Tigers sloshed their way to an 8-0 victory to advance to the state finals.
We played Tuesday night and we had to play again Friday.
There'll be a lot of people saying, stop looking for an excuse. You guys got a great excuse. You played all this football in this short period of time. You didn't have time to rest.
In the championship game, the Tigers found themselves in another scoreless slugfest.
We kind of caught them off guard. Got us up and popped it through, and there was nobody there but a freaking little defensive back, and 29 yards on a quarterback sneak to win the state championship.
The run, and more importantly, the championship quarterback, had a special place in Coach Brown's heart. We turn the tables. We share a gridiron tale with Surratt.
A little surprise here. I got Charlie Brown talking about you.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
He's about 5'9", he says. I say about 5'6", but he was 6 foot tall in his heart. A natural leader, and some kids have it and some don't.
Very humbling, you know. It's just not ain't much I can say about that.
Surratt's teammates say this is a first. He's speechless. 48 years later, the reenactment's almost as good as the original.
It was special. You know, wasn't done before, won't be done again.
I was one of 2 blacks on the football team in Noble High School. Went through some things, but it was external. It wasn't inside that locker room. It was external.
The 1972 Neville Tigers, a gridiron tale that never ages.
He said, man, that's got to be told. That's a beautiful story.
Loved hearing those stories from that championship squad. Coming up, a Super Bowl winning coach from ULM, a wild fight involving mascots. Welcome to sports on this Father's Day weekend. We have a special treat for you, a father-son duo that can beat you on the field and on the lake. In this gridiron tale, Bob and Robert Lane on faith, family, and football.
Boy, they spooky today. You know, Robert and I have been doing this since he was old enough to go and bait a hook.
A father-son duo that casts a large shadow.
He does have some experience on the fishing and hunting on me, so I'm just trying to catch up. How about that one?
What's the score now?
1-0. See, Aaron, part of the reason why he's better at it's like a computer game, and I didn't grow up with all these handheld computer games and all that. He still got an iPhone 3.
An old rusty projector is all Bob Lane needs.
Charlie Brown was just a godsend. I mean, there's not enough words that could explain.
In the early 70s, it'd be hard to find a more versatile player than Bob Lane. He intercepted 18 passes in 19 games for Neville, and under center, led the Tigers to a 25-4 record in 2 seasons.
They didn't have any numbers because they played in such a time where they barely had any film. So what he's saying, he could have been making up.
The good-natured jabbing continues as Bob answers.
Caught one off supper.
LSU reeled Bob in. However, 3 knee surgeries and a coaching change had Bob on the fast lane out of Baton Rouge. He landed at NLU for his senior season and caught the eye of NFL scouts. After stops at Tampa Bay and Atlanta, Bob found a home in the blossoming USFL. In 1983, he was Birmingham's MVP.
I remember watching the old VHS tapes of the Birmingham Stallions, and we'd plug those in from time to time.
As Bob's career winded down, his afternoons on the lake with his son increased.
You know, we kind of joke football and baseball for you know, the lifetime that Robert and I've had. That's just something we did in between hunting and fishing trips.
Bob was a big fish in Louisiana's football pond, but Robert says he never felt pressured to follow in his wake.
Honestly, I didn't, but I think it was because of, you know, the guidance I got from him. That never was a big deal at our house.
The low-key approach worked. Like his father, Robert developed into the top-ranked player in Louisiana.
He'll score. The 15, the 10, the 5, touchdown!
The high school All-American put up crazy numbers, threw for over 6,000 yards and 64 touchdowns, rushed for over 2,000 with another 42 scores. The Louisiana Gatorade Player of the Year had national powerhouses banging down his door.
It's one of these here. But the answer is in the bag.
Nice to have somebody that had been on a higher level and you know, kept me grounded and knew that really didn't matter a whole lot. You know, we needed to focus on the things that did.
Miss University, Oxford, Mississippi.
Robert started as a redshirt freshman for the Rebels, but his story took a similar twist to his father's. A coaching change eventually led to a position change.
It was really kind of spooky almost. You know, we had great extended careers. You know, we were blessed with a lot, and you know, there's the old saying that to much is given, much is expected. And you know, those injuries and coaching changes that Robert and I had similarities with, that's just part of the game. That ain't no brim right there.
Now their competitive fires are fueled by these weekly trips.
Faith, family, football, fishing.
Their conversations do occasionally drift to who was the better gunslinger.
Say this unequivocally, Robert was a better player than I was. More athletic, had better skill levels. It was a different time, so it's hard to compare the shotgun offense that I played in the spread when he was in, you know, wing T or I formation running, you know, the bootleg and things like that. But I would have to say, just because of the confidence that I have, that I was better than him. It's the same thing that goes with fishing.
Two careers that featured some choppy waters, but eventually led to calm and reflective days on the lake.
It's helped us, it's helped me, it's helping Robert to deal with life as it relates to obstacles, and not every day turns out like you expected it to that morning when you wake up, but you have to do your dead level best with it. There you go, Nate. Here you go.
We are having a great time taking a walk down memory lane. The segments roll along next week. On Monday, overcoming a freak accident on the football field. On Tuesday, we dive deep into the archives for a record-setting day in the NFL. And then on Wednesday, Northeast Louisiana athlete smashes a national record.